Have you ever imagined this? Spending years in prayer and obedience to God, giving up things you loved, serving when you were exhausted, praising even when you felt nothing, only to find yourself one day on your knees, begging Him to move quickly on something you want so badly, because it feels like your entire life depends on it. And then God responds with absolute silence, not a whisper, not a sign, not even a delayed yes. Just nothing. You try again, louder this time, but weaker, more desperate. Still, no response. And while you're waiting, in that crushing quiet, you look around and you see other people whose lives are changing at lightning speed, becoming everything you've been praying for. People who don't even pray like you do. People who just started believing, or maybe don't believe at all, and yet their marriages are restored, their jobs are given, and their doors are swinging wide open. In that moment, you are overcome by a terrible feeling that you are facing a God who treats you the way a computer treats an array. Just another request in a long line of requests. And you imagine, very clearly, that you are now at the end of the queue and your turn to receive a response has not yet come. I want to be honest with you. I have felt this feeling, and I still feel it some days. But when I stopped begging long enough to truly listen, and when I immersed myself in prayer, not as a transaction, but as a relationship, and when I started reading the Bible, not for information, but for transformation, I found the exact opposite of what I feared. God does not treat us the way a computer processes an array. There is no cosmic waiting list, there is no divine favoritism, and there is no waiting period for me to receive His blessings. Because the Bible provides us with everything we need to understand what is really happening when God goes silent. But let me pause here, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, that sounds nice, but you don't know my situation. You don't know how long I have waited. You don't know how many nights I have cried myself to sleep, wondering if God even sees me anymore. And you're right. I don't know your specific pain, but I know the shape of it, because I have lived in that room. And that is exactly why we need to go deeper than surface level answers. So let's start by tearing down a lie that has secretly infected so many of us. The lie that God's silence means God's absence. The Bible is filled with people who felt completely abandoned by God in their darkest moments, but not one of them was actually abandoned. Think about the Canaanite woman in Matthew chapter 15. She came to Jesus, begging for her daughter's healing. And at first, Jesus said nothing, not a single word. Even the disciples asked Him to send her away, but she did not leave. She did not say, I guess I'm at the end of the queue. Instead, she knelt, she worshiped, she stayed. And Jesus finally said to her, Woman, you have great faith. And her daughter was healed that very hour. Not because her turn finally came, but because her faith was tested and found real. Now notice something important. Jesus did not explain His silence to her. He did not say, I'm sorry for making you wait. He simply revealed that her persistence had unlocked something. And that something was not a change in God's willingness. It was a change in her spiritual posture. This is where so many of us get stuck. We think silence means we need to shout louder. But what if silence means we need to get closer? What if God is not ignoring you, but inviting you into a deeper level of trust? That cannot be built any other way. Here is what most people will never tell you. Sometimes the silence is not punishment. It is preparation. And sometimes God does not answer quickly, because if He answered quickly, you would not be ready for what comes after the answer. If you're still here right now, this message is for you. Don't just watch it. Stay with it. And if this kind of message strengthens your faith, consider subscribing, because this channel is built for moments like this. Think about a parent teaching a child to ride a bicycle. The child is crying, begging the parent to hold tighter. But the parent knows if they never let go, the child will never learn to balance. So the parent steps back, not because they stop loving the child, but because they love them too much to limit their growth. That is what God is doing in your silence. He is not stepping back in anger. He is preparing you to carry something greater. Now let's go deeper. What if I told you that the greatest breakthroughs in the Bible came after long seasons of silence? Look at Abraham. God promised him a son, and then silence for years. Years as his body aged, as hope seemed impossible. Until one day, at 100 years old, Isaac was born. That's not delay. That's divine timing beyond human logic. Look at Joseph. He had a dream from God, and then everything fell apart. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, thrown into prison, forgotten. For 13 years, silence. But he wasn't forgotten. He was being formed into a leader who would save nations. And when the moment came, he said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Look at Job. He lost everything, and God was silent, not for minutes, but for chapters of his life. And when God finally spoke, he didn't give explanations. He gave revelation. And Job realized some answers are too small compared to encountering God himself. Look at Lazarus. Jesus heard he was sick and waited 2 more days. Not because he didn't care, but because he had something greater in mind. By the time Jesus arrived, Lazarus had been dead 4 days. Hopeless, final, over. And then Jesus said, "Lazarus, come out." And a dead man walked out. If Jesus came earlier, he would have healed. Because he waited, he resurrected. So let me ask you, what if your delay is not God being late, but God preparing something greater than you imagined? What if this is not about repair, but resurrection? Sometimes the thing you want God to change is the very thing God is using to change you. Because changed circumstances without changed character lead right back to the same pain. So what do? In the silence, stop comparing your life to others. Stop treating prayer like a transaction. Stay in the Word and learn to trust God's silence as much as His voice, because a faith built in silence cannot be shaken in storms. You are not in a queue. You are in a story, and the author has not forgotten your chapter. He is writing something deeper right now, because this silence is not the end. It might be the doorway to your greatest breakthrough. God is not a machine, and you are not a line of code. Hold on, your story is not over, and the same God who was silent before resurrection is about to speak in a way you will never forget. Stay in the fight, stay on your knees, and watch what happens when you refuse to walk away from the silence.